The market will strip you bare if you come unprepared. It does not forgive, it does not forget, it only takes. Patience is the rarest virtue on the street and the most expensive lesson a trader can ever buy. I have seen men ruin themselves not because they lacked capital or courage, but because they couldn't sit still. They treated the market like a roulette wheel, spinning every hour, every day, hoping fortune would smile on them. But the market does not reward restless hands. It rewards the one who waits, the one who has the steel to sit quietly while others lose themselves in noise. There are days when the tape flickers and tempts you with movement. A quick rally here, a sudden dip there, and your fingers itch to act. That is the trap. The tape is always moving, but not every movement matters. The market whispers false signals more often than it speaks the truth. If you jump at every twitch, you bleed yourself dry on commissions and false starts. The patient trader does not chase shadows. He watches, he measures, he waits for the moment when the market lays its cards on the table. I recall sitting through weeks of dull action, the kind that makes a man question whether he's wasting his time. The crowd grew impatient, throwing themselves into small moves, only to be chewed up when the tape snapped back against them. I waited. I waited until the stock pushed through its level with force, not once, not twice, but with a kind of conviction you can feel in your bones. That was the moment to strike. Not before, not after. And when I did, the market rewarded me, not because I was clever, but because I had the discipline to hold fire until the shot was clear. Patience also means knowing when not to hope. A losing position is a test of nerves. The weak man clings to it, telling himself the tide will turn, that the market owes him relief. But the market owes no one. Patience is not sitting idly in a bad trade, praying for salvation. True patience is in the waiting before you commit, not in the stubbornness after you've erred. If the tape proves you wrong, you cut clean and wait again. The capital you save by retreating is the powder you'll need for the next real opportunity. The hardest part is the silence. Sitting with no position while the crowd howls, that is where the battle is fought. You must master your own impulses, your own need to feel busy. A speculator who cannot wait is like a soldier who fires blindly into the fog, wasting bullets while the enemy advances. I've learned to keep my gunpowder dry, to hold steady, to let others exhaust themselves chasing every phantom. And then, when the market shows its hand with strength and clarity, I step in with conviction, not timidly, not half-hearted, but with the calm certainty that comes only from discipline is the line between survival and ruin in this game. I learned it on the tape, not in comfort, but in pain, when hesitation cost me dearly and stubbornness nearly finished me. The market does not care about your hopes or your pride. It moves as it pleases, and you either respect its verdict or you pay the price. Discipline means obeying your own rules, even when every nerve in your body screams for you to do otherwise. When a trade turns against you, the crowd clings to hope. They tell themselves, it will come back. But I've seen enough to know that the tape rarely grants such mercy. I cut quick, sharp, decisive. Better to take a flesh wound than to bleed out slowly. A small loss is tuition. A big loss is bankruptcy of both pocket and spirit. But discipline does not end with cutting losses. It extends to the winners as well. The undisciplined man grabs at a profit the way a starving beggar grabs at crumbs, terrified the market will snatch it away. He sells too soon, and then watches in agony as the stock soars without him. Discipline means holding steady, letting the market prove the strength of your position. When a stock moves in your favor with conviction, you don't snatch at it like a thief in the night. You let it run. You add to it with care, building a position like a craftsman laying stone, one block at a time. I remember a trade where the tape whispered at first, barely noticeable, but with a rhythm beneath the noise. I bought a small line, nothing grand. The stock moved, paused, then pushed again, this time with force that could not be denied. The crowd hesitated, but I added, cautiously, waiting for the tape to confirm. Each new rise gave me reason to build. The profit grew not by chance, but by discipline, obeying the rule of adding only when the market justified it. And when at last the stock showed signs of exhaustion, I sold into strength, not weakness. That is discipline too, knowing when the feast is over, leaving the table before greed tempts you to overstay. It is the same with idle hours. There are stretches when the market offers nothing but noise, days when the tape is a desert and the crowd grows restless. The undisciplined man cannot endure the silence. He trades for the sake of trading, and the market strips him piece by piece. Discipline is the strength to wait to preserve capital, to keep your gunpowder dry for when the true opportunity arrives. Without it, every advantage slips away, and you find yourself scrambling, short of both money and courage, watching the tape write your epitaph in real time as the greatest enemy in speculation is not the market. It is the man staring back at you in the mirror. The ticker moves with the rhythm of fear and greed, and if you do not master your own pulse, you will be swept into the same frenzy that destroys the crowd. I have felt that fever, the rush of blood when a stock begins to move in my favor, the pounding in the chest when a sudden drop threatens to tear the ground from beneath me. Those moments reveal whether you are fit to trade or merely gambling with your nerves. I recall watching a stock climb steadily, each uptick like a spark catching fire. The temptation was to throw myself in with both hands to double, even triple my line, drunk on the thrill of being right. But emotion is a liar. Excitement blinds a man, makes him careless, eager to overreach. I forced myself to stay still, to add only in measured steps, never beyond what the tape itself justified. The stock rose higher, the crowd cheered louder, but I knew the same crowd would be screaming just as loudly when the tide turned. If I had let greed govern me, I would have been trapped at the very top, begging for mercy when the first signs of weakness appeared. Fear is no less dangerous. I have sold out of positions too soon, not because the tape told me to, but because my nerves couldn't bear the pressure. A sudden dip, a violent shake, and my hand hovered over the sell key like a man ready to abandon ship at the first wave. And more than once I sold in haste, only to watch the stock recover and march higher without me. That pain is worse than the loss of money. It is the sting of knowing you betrayed your own judgment. The tape had been right, I had been weak. The market punishes pride as well. Pride whispers that you cannot be wrong, that the stock will bend to your will. I have sat in trades that turned against me, telling myself the dip was temporary, that I knew better than the market. That stubbornness cost me dear. The tape does not argue, it declares. Discipline means surrendering ego, bowing to the verdict of price and action, no matter how it wounds your pride. To master emotion is to move with calm precision as a soldier would on the field. A trade must never be an act of desperation or excitement, but of clarity. Each entry, each addition, each exit must come from the tape, not from the beating of your own heart. You cannot silence emotion, but you can train it, bend it to your will, keep it from clouding your judgment. For in the end, the man who loses to his own fear or greed is already finished before the market makes its move, and the tape will write his fate long before. Risk is the one thing most men never truly respect until it ruins them. They step into the market thinking only of profit, as if the money is already theirs, blind to the fact that every trade carries a knife hidden in its sleeve. I learned early that the only way to last in this business is to treat every dollar like a soldier on the battlefield. You never throw your whole army into the first skirmish. You send scouts, you probe, you test the strength of the other side. Only when the tape confirms, only when the position proves itself, do you commit more. And even then, never so much that one reversal can annihilate you. I remember building into a trade slowly, each addition like tightening a knot. The stock moved in my favor, not once but several times, steady, deliberate, no wild swings to shake me loose. That was the signal. I pressed, but carefully, each step tested by the tape. The gains grew, and with them the temptation to overreach, to throw in size beyond reason. But I have seen how quickly profit can turn to ashes. One headline, one sharp shake, and the man who bet too heavily finds himself wiped out, his capital gone, his confidence shattered. Risk management is not about cowardice. It is about survival. Without capital, you are a soldier stripped of weapons, forced to watch the battle from the sidelines. Cutting losses is part of that survival. I have never known a trader who could not be wrong. The danger lies not in being wrong, but in refusing to admit it. A stock moves against you. The tape tells you clear as day that your line is weak. And yet pride whispers to hold, to wait, to hope. I have made that mistake. I have watched a small loss swell into a gaping wound because I would not take the medicine quick. The disciplined cut feels sharp in the moment, but it heals fast. The undisciplined hold on until the wound festers, and by the time they surrender, they are half dead. Risk is not only in losses. It lies in profits, too. A man can be ruined by success if he lets greed blind him. He wins on a position, doubles, triples, and before long his risk is out of proportion, his safety net gone. I have watched traders win handsomely only to give it all back because they forgot the market is not generous, it is ruthless. Every position must be sized with the thought of survival first, profit second. I keep my capital guarded as if it were gold locked in a vault. Each trade must earn the right to grow. If the tape proves it, I add. If it falters, I step back, cut, retreat. The market will always be there tomorrow, but only for those who have the ammunition left to fight. I have sat out for weeks, even months, protecting that powder, waiting for the one clear shot worth taking. The kind of move where the odds tilt heavy in your favor, the kind where respect for the market is the one principle a man forgets at his own peril. The moment you think you have it cornered, it humbles you. I have lived through trades where my confidence grew so fat it blinded me, where I believed I saw the whole picture, only for the tape to remind me how small I truly was. The market is larger than any opinion, stronger than any conviction, and it has no obligation to explain itself. To approach it without humility is to walk into a storm with no shelter. I remember watching a stock climb with relentless force, each uptick feeding my pride. I thought I had read it perfectly, that the market was merely confirming what I already knew. So I pressed hard, adding size beyond reason, blind to the fact that I was no longer following the tape, but feeding my own ego. Then came the turn, sharp, sudden, merciless. In a single session, the profit I had counted as mine vanished, and what remained was a loss so bitter I could taste it. That day taught me the difference between confidence and arrogance. Respect means listening to the market even when it tells you something you do not want to hear. The tape is like the ocean. You can ride its waves, but you cannot command them. A stock can do anything at any time, and the moment you forget that, you are already beaten. I have seen traders stand stubbornly against a move, certain it was overextended, only to be steamrolled as the price surged higher and higher. They fought the tide with clenched fists, and the tide drowned them. I learned that you do not argue with price, you obey it. If it moves against you, you step aside. If it moves in your favor, you follow with care. But you never believe the market owes you explanation or fairness. Respect also means restraint. There are days when the tape is confused, when volume dries up, when moves lack conviction. The undisciplined man forces trades in that fog, thinking he can impose his will. But the market is not a servant, it is a master. When the picture is unclear, the respectful trader stands aside, patient, capital intact, waiting for clarity. It is better to miss 10 uncertain moves than to be caught in one false step that wipes you out. I have come to treat every position as a privilege, not a right. Each dollar I commit is put forward with the knowledge that the market can take it from me without hesitation. That knowledge keeps me sharp, keeps me cautious, keeps me from falling into the trap of overconfidence. For the day you stop respecting the market is the day it takes everything from you, and it does so without warning, without pity, without even a glance backward, as if no single trade should ever decide your fate. That truth is carved deep into me, paid for in scars the tape will never let me forget. In the beginning, I treated each trade like it was the chance of a lifetime, shoving more capital into it than sense would allow, dreaming of the fortune it would bring. But the market punishes that kind of recklessness. One sharp reversal, one sudden shake, and the very trade you thought would crown you ends up burying you. The lesson is simple: survival is everything. The man who keeps his capital lives to fight another day. The man who risks it all on one throw of the dice does not come back. I learned to think of every dollar as a soldier in my army. A good general never sends all his men charging into the first battle. He tests the ground, probes the enemy, advances carefully. That's how I treat a trade. A small position at first, watching how the tape behaves, letting the stock prove itself. If it moves with strength, if it shows conviction, I add a little more. But I never go all in, never stake the whole war on one skirmish. A sudden headline, a shock on the tape, and the undisciplined trader finds his forces routed, his capital scattered, his campaign ended before it begins. I can still see one trade in my mind. The setup was perfect, everything aligned, the stock moving just the way I had hoped. I pressed hard, maybe too hard, feeling invincible. Then, without warning, it turned. At first, I told myself it was only a pullback, a pause before the next leg higher. But the tape kept whispering otherwise, and before long it was shouting. I ignored it. Pride held me in, and by the time I admitted defeat, I had taken a loss that set me back months. If I had kept my risk small, if I had managed the position with care, that loss would have been nothing more than a scratch. Instead, it was a wound that bled far too deep. The danger is not only in being wrong, but in being too right. A winning trade is just as dangerous when you let greed convince you that it cannot fail. You add and add size beyond reason until one sharp shake takes half your profit back in an instant. The tape does not care how well you've read it so far. Respect for risk means guarding gains as carefully as you guard capital. I treat risk now as the cost of staying alive in this business. A small loss I can cut without hesitation. A profit I build only when the market proves it can carry the weight. My positions grow slowly, deliberately, and never to the point where one bad turn can strip me of my stake. Because in the end, it is not brilliance that keeps a trader in the game. It is survival. The steady preservation of powder for the next real opportunity. The kind where the tape shows its hand, and you know with cold certainty that this is the moment worth I. The market is always bigger than you, and the sooner you accept that, the longer you'll last. I have seen men come in flush with confidence, certain they had the game figured out, certain their judgment was sharper than the tape itself. They strutted in with heavy hands, and the market broke them in half. It does not bend to your opinion, it does not yield to your certainty, and it has no concern for your comfort. To survive, you must respect it like you'd respect a raging sea. You can ride the waves if you're skilled, but the moment you think you command them, you're already drowning. I once held a position that seemed carved in stone. Every sign told me I was right. The stock advanced steadily, and with each point gained, my pride swelled. I convinced myself the move could not fail, that I had read it perfectly, that the market was proving me a master. That was the mistake. I stopped listening to the tape and began listening only to myself. When the reversal came, it was swift, brutal, merciless. By the time I cut loose, half my profit was gone, and I was left staring at the cold truth. The market had not betrayed me. I had betrayed my own discipline by believing I was greater than the very force I sought to follow. Respecting the market means bowing to its verdict without hesitation. If it moves against you, there is no arguing, no debating, no pleading. The tape speaks and you obey. I have sat in losing trades telling myself the market was wrong, that it would come around to my view. That stubborn pride cost me dearly. The market is never wrong. It simply is. When I learned to accept that, to treat each loss as the market's way of saying, you were early, you were careless, step aside. I began to preserve both my capital and my sanity. There are days when the tape is muddled, when signals are faint, when nothing feels clean. That is when respect demands restraint. You do not force clarity out of confusion. You wait. Let others exhaust themselves chasing false moves. Let them bleed on meaningless swings. I have learned to sit still, hands quiet, while the market works out its direction. Capital is ammunition, and you do not waste it firing into fog. And when the real move does appear, when the tape surges with conviction, when the stock reveals its strength beyond doubt, then I move, but even then with care. Respect means not pressing blindly, not mistaking momentum for invincibility. Each addition must be justified by the tape, each step taken with awareness that the tide can turn without warning. For the market has no memory, no loyalty. It does not care how long you have held, how much you have risked, how certain you are. It moves as it wishes, and the only choice you have is whether to follow with discipline or be crushed by. In the end, speculation is not about beating the market. It is about mastering yourself. The tape will tempt you, punish you, reward you, and strip you bare, but it is never the true enemy. The real battle is within, between discipline and impulse, patience and greed, humility and pride. I have won fortunes and lost them, but what kept me alive was this: I respected the game, I guarded my capital, and I learned to wait for the rare moments when the market spoke with clarity. Those moments are few, but they are everything. So remember this: the rules are simple, but the courage to follow them is rare. If you can silence the noise, cut quick when you're wrong, hold fast when you're right, and bow to the market with humility, then you may last long enough to taste victory. If not, the market will grind you down like all the rest. The choice is yours, and the price of that choice will be written, line by line on the tape.